Hello YouTube. In the Chinese documents that have come down to our times, so to say, not just myth-making reports about giants have been preserved, but apparently there is evidence of their coexistence with humans. So, for example, in the 12th century BC, a battle took place between people, meaning human beings, and giants, about 3.5 meters tall. People outnumbered, and the giants were forced to leave the plain for the mountains. The second serious conflict described occurred in the year 17 AD. This time the attacking people were defeated. The giants dropped large stones, rocks, on them, and the defeated were forced to retreat. The reason for the skirmish was that the giants stole pets and birds from peasants in mountainous areas. The Portuguese priest Melchior Barreto described the Chinese giants in the most detail in the 16th century. The diaries he wrote say that the giants were recruited into the army by the Chinese generals. Those giants, their height ranged from 3.5 meters to 4 meters. Outwardly, they looked very much like ordinary people of Asian appearance, only huge. The giants talked to each other in an unknown language, but at the same time, they understood commands in Chinese. The Chinese emperor recruited about 500 giants and created a squad of giant archers. Melchior Nunes Barreto was the 16th century Portuguese Jesuit priest who acted as a missionary in India, China, and Japan. He was one of the first Jesuits to visit China and stayed there for about 10 months. Barreto was the first Catholic priest allowed to leave Macau and enter Canton. He died in Goa, the Portuguese colony. Now, this account of the giants in China was also written about in the 17th century as a fait accompli by the English priest George Haquel. However, he pointed out that due to frequent skirmishes, the giant squad had halved from 500 combat soldiers to 260. An interesting fact, but the official documents of the Military Chronicle of China also reflect the recruitment of mountain giants. This happened in 1555 and in 1670. And this is when the last representative of the giants died. Among other things, it is reported, and I'm using Russian sources, that in 1922 Chinese archaeologists discovered 9 poorly preserved 3.5 meter units of uniforms, traditional for Chinese archers. This fact indicates that there was a need to create such large samples of military uniforms. Thus, it can be stated there is enough evidence, at least for some researchers, that there were giants in the Chinese army. As for the skeletons of the 3 to 4 meter people, there are different sources with different informations on this matter, meaning that I don't think the skeletons were found. But the Chinese are very sensitive to their history. All finds made on the territory of the country belong to the state, and as a rule, they are found by local experts. Many artifacts discovered in China never make it to the public. This was the case with the mysterious resonating crystals found in several ancient pyramids of the country. Probably they did the same with the skeletons of giants. There is an opinion that the giants of China are a tribe of people who, due to genetic characteristics, have grown all their lives. As a rule, mutants cannot fully live, and it is very difficult for them to survive. Therefore, the giants have not survived to our days. Of course, official historians will write off all written evidence for myth-making and a large size of cloth for ceremonial functions. Well, it's unless we have more evidence, it's all, I don't want to say hearsay, but it's very hard to prove. But I'm sure we'll find more evidence. Look, here's something interesting from 2017. So that's 2,000 years after the last battle that involved giants, at least the 17 AD battle. The average height of a modern Chinese man is thought to be about 172 centimeters. I think it's 5.6 feet. So the discovery of much larger men dating back 5,000 years is certainly causing a sort of sensation. Archaeologists discovered skeletons of these giants in Shandong province of East China. They found graves containing bones of relatively large people, with one man reaching up to 1.9 meters, 6.2 feet, and few others at least 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet. This is just based on the bone structure. If he was a living person, his height would certainly exceed 1.9 meters, according to Wang Hui, head of the Shandong University School of History and Culture. According to Xinhua News, the taller men were found in larger tombs than their smaller counterparts, which may be because they had a higher status and were able to acquire better food. They likely would have towered over many others in the area. However, archaeologists also found obvious damage to the head and leg bones of some of the bodies and to pottery and jade articles in 6 large tombs. This may have been done not long after the burials and could have been due to power struggles among the high-ranking people. Who knows? The excavation site was specifically in a village called Jiazhuzhia. Since 2016, the ruins of 104 houses, 205 graves, and 20 sacrificial pits have been found there. Interestingly, the Chinese philosopher Confucius came from the Shandong province and was reportedly quite tall himself. They said like 1.9 meters. Shandong locals reportedly pride themselves on their height. In 2015, they were found to have an average height of 1.75 meters, 5.75 feet, compared to the national average of 1.72 meters, 5.64 feet. These particular bones from a late Neolithic civilization dating back 4,500 to 5,000 years ago. So they lived in the lower reaches of the Yellow River, but not a huge amount is known about this area at this time. These bones were not the only interesting find at the site. Colorful pottery and jade articles have been found in the rows of houses, which supposedly indicate that people lived comfortable lives. It's not clear what made this man so tall. Diverse and rich food resources may have played a part. By Western standards, 1.9 meters might not seem really that tall, but certainly in China at the time, these people would have towered over everybody else. I saw Chinese men in Hong Kong many years ago who were very tall, and I couldn't believe it several times. So it's very interesting, this propensity among some in the Chinese population. But you see, here's something else that's interesting. Apparently in 2016, photographs from the 19th century from the late Qing dynasty, a period of famine and malnutrition for many of the nation's inhabitants, came about. It was also the time when Westerners were first making inroads into the country. In the course of their activities, these foreign-born merchants encountered the abnormally large men. Among them was Zhang Shicai, the most famous giant of the imperial period. He was from the Fujian province and was 8 feet tall. On the advice of a British businessman, he moved to London in 1865 at the age of 24. The collection of photographs also includes image of Chang Yangming, who was a bailiff at the local imperial government office in the Yunnan province, and he towered above prisoners. His height was 7 feet 11 inches. As well documented as Zhang and Chang's stories are, the collection of photographs also included individuals with gigantism, or if I pronounce it right, whose names have been forgotten by history. And it's very interesting, but it's not only China. And it's not only giants that could be somewhat easily explained, I guess. Other giants from ancient times raise questions as to who they really were and how they operated on our planet. And this is not my first video about this. And I'll put a link to other videos about giants in other parts of Eurasia. You see, our planet keeps a lot of evidence that real giants once lived on its surface. There is quite a large number of structures on Earth that ordinary people seemingly cannot build with the capabilities and the wherewithal available at the times. Did giants really exist on Earth? Who were they? How did they come to us? And where did they disappear to later? Well, maybe in fact these are robots and mechanisms that ancient people embodied in the image of a giant. Myths and legends of almost, I don't want to say all peoples, but most people preserve the memory of giants of the past. And as you know, myths often turn out to be true when someone undertakes to prove it. Here we can give the example of the famous story of Heinrich Schliemann, who discovered Troy with the help of myths. But this is far from an isolated fact. For example, in 2001, Jason's palace was discovered in Greece. Archaeologists have decided to conduct excavations at Mount Pelion. What if it is so named not by chance but in honor of Pelias, who once took away his kingdom from Jason, and the excavations were crowned with success? So that's a great example. So maybe we need to listen to myths more often, including about giants, and not only in ancient Greece, of course, but other parts of the world. Look, what if the ancient giants really existed? There are researchers in Russia that tend to believe that aliens or people from the future visited Earth a long time ago. And let's say that they either created people or found themselves among the wild tribes that inhabited the planet. And these ancient savage people of our planet learned about the world around them, or watched the so-called gods who had weapons, flying machines, mechanisms. These technically equipped creatures had to settle down on our planet to clear forests, to blow up rocks, build various structures. And for a contemporary man who resided in caves and led life we would consider as primitive, all these projects look like continuous horror. Explosions, rumbling, clanging, fires, incredible noise they were not used to. And interestingly, in the legends of a number of people on our planet, giants appear much earlier than people. That's what the myths of ancient Greece say about it. The mighty earth gave birth to 3 cyclopean giants with 1 eye in their foreheads and 3 50-headed 100-armed giants, Hekatonher, huge as mountains, so named because each one of them had 100 hands. Nothing can stand against their terrible power. Their elemental power knows no limits. So in Greek mythology, the Hekatonheres in Greek means 100-handed ones, or 100-handers, also called the Santimanes, named Cotus, Briareus, or Aegeon, and Gyges, or Gyas, were 3 monstrous giants of enormous size and strength, each with 50 heads and 100 arms. In the standard tradition, they were the offspring of Uranus, sky, and Gaia, earth, and helped Zeus and the Olympians to overthrow the Titans and the Titanomachy. Looking at this myth with a fresh look, some think that it was very similar to the description of machines or robots that were used for heavy physical labor. Judge for yourself how a savage ancient people would perceive excavators or bulldozers, that these are precisely multi-armed terrible giants. And of course, what if they had other machines we can't even imagine, really, with appendages, multi-purpose appendages? The myth of the battle of the gods and the titans is interesting. And I'm not even going into ancient India. You can find that in my other videos. But for now, we'll stick to Greece. By and large, judging by the name of the titans, it is simply nature, ocean, air, etc. Now, read from this point of view the myth of the war with the titans. Imagine that the titans are forces of nature. Zeus is an advanced being equipped with powerful weapons and equipment, and giants are mechanisms and huge robots. Okay? Mighty and formidable were their opponents, the Titans, but the Cyclops came to Zeus's aid. They forged thunder and lightning for him. Zeus threw them into Titans. The struggle had been going on for 10 years, but the victory did not go to either side. Finally, Zeus decided to release from the bowels of the earth 100 giants, Hecanothers. He called them to help. Terrible, huge as mountains, they came out of the bowels of the earth and rushed into battle. They tore whole rocks from the mountains and threw them at the Titans. Hundreds of rocks flew toward the Titans when they approached Olympus. The earth groaned and roar filled the air. Everything was shaking. Zeus hurled flaming lightning and deafening rumbling thunder one after another. The fire engulfed the whole earth. The seas were boiling, smoking, stench covered everything with a thick veil. Finally, the mighty Titans trembled. Their strength was broken. They were defeated. The Olympians bound them and cast them into the gloomy Tartarus, into their eternal darkness. The power of the Titans in the world has passed. That is, when the power of the Titans has passed, the earth has already become suitable for a more civilized life of people. Interestingly, according to the myths of many countries and peoples, a tribe of giants once lived on earth, which was then replaced by the tribe of plowmen. It turns out that gods prepared fields for crops with the help of technology. Terrible giants who uprooted mighty trees. By the way, in many myths and fairy tales, giants are associated with trees. They uproot oaks and so forth. They removed stones, blew up rocks, and then the gods gave people seeds of plants and taught them farming and crafts. And so the history of cultural humanity began. I also want to turn your attention to the mysterious island of Crete, the Minoan civilization, and the legends about, I will never forget, a giant bull who was a machine that was working the fields. I think it ran amok around the island. And of course, Talus, the giant robot-like creature that was defending the island. But that's for another video, because Crete, to me, is a special place, and I'm a student of Ivan Yefremov's research and books, and he was fascinated with Crete. And I mentioned it in my other videos about Ivan Yefremov. I think you should look at them if you like these subjects. By the way, if you believe the myths, then the giants had some strange connection with the earth. They lived underground and then went into the ground. They got out of the ground, and after all, developing our planet, mysterious creatures conducted underground work. Remember the tunnels I have mentioned in my videos, and you will find a playlist about the underground structures, cities, and the tunnels. There's quite a lot about this in Eurasia, and I try to collect and tell you as much as I know. Here's a very interesting connection. Now, in the Russian epics, we also had giants. There are giants that are particular to that culture. For example, Svyatogor, who was so big that the legendary strongman and warrior Ilya Muromets was placed in his pocket, and together with a horse. Imagine it, how big was Svyatogor. But an interesting point is that Russian giants also have a complex relationship with Mother Raw Earth, as the planet was referred to in ancient Russia. Well, Mother Raw Earth could not withstand their weight, those giants. So they would sink into the ground either knee deep or head deep, just like heavy construction equipment that conducts excavation work, isn't it? By the way, many giants and myths are cannibals. That is reflected in the fairy tales of different people. And now imagine how, from the savage's point of view, an excavator looks like, into which a man or a woman entered and disappeared into it. It simply ate the human. And interestingly, sometimes in fairy tales, people stay alive in the belly of giants and then go outside. The hypothesis that the giants are machines of the ancients could explain a lot of unsolvable mysteries of mankind. There are many structures on our planet that cause surprise. How could they build this without the help of real advanced technology? Moreover, they are even officially called Cyclopean, because according to myths, they were built by Cyclops. Moreover, they are found everywhere on our planet, almost everywhere. Here are some examples: the Baalbek Temple in Lebanon, towers in Sardinia, temples in Malta, fortresses in Peru, India, the walls of Mycenae and Therines in Greece. A huge number of structures, the mystery of the construction of which has not been solved so far. And I always try to bring your attention in my videos to these mysteries of our planet's past. How could ancient people build such colossal structures out of huge blocks without the help of high technology? And if we imagine that ancient people still had technology, then everything immediately finds its explanation. They were created with the help of construction equipment, which we may not be able to grasp, but it functioned. Now the question arises, why are there no traces of these ancient giants? Well, firstly, the amount of this technology, judging by the myths, was quite limited. Remember, in the beginning, there were all but 3 Cyclops and 3 Hekanoheres. Then there were more giants, but also not so many. It is almost impossible to find traces of several ancient mechanisms on our huge planet. And I urge you to see my video about the Yellow Emperor of China and the team, his helpers, who help do very interesting planets to transform our very interesting tools to transform our planet. Secondly, the equipment could be disassembled, taken out, removed, or maybe even hidden in a safe place. But there is another interesting hypothesis. There's this mysterious moment in the myths, the explanation of which can shed light on the disappearance of giants. If we accept the hypothesis that giants are robots and mechanisms, then according to myths, at one time in the ancient world, there was also a certain mutiny, uprising of the machines. Let's read the myth of Hercules' battles with the giants from a new perspective. Let's assume that the gods are developed beings. Hercules is their creation. According to legends, he is the son of Zeus and a terrestrial woman, and the giants are robots or intelligent machines. The giants possessed terrible power. They were proud of their might and wanted to take away the power of the bright Olympian gods over the world. Not fearing death at the hands of the gods, the giants rushed into battle. The battle lasted a long time. The giants threw huge rocks and burning trunks of ancient trees at the gods. Finally, Hercules appeared with the Pallas Athena. The string of the formidable bow of the son of Zeus rang, an arrow filled with the poison of the Lernaean Hydra flashed and plunged into the chest of the mightiest of the giants, Alcyoneus. After the death of the Alcyoneus, the giant Porphyrion attacked Hercules and Hera. He took off Hera's veil and wanted to grab her, but Zeus threw him to the ground with his lightning, and Hercules deprived him of his life with his arrow. Apollo pierced the left eye of the giant Ephialtes with his golden arrow, and Hercules killed him by hitting him in the right eye with an arrow. The giant Eurytus was struck down by Dionysius with the Thyrsus. the giant Clytius by Hephaestus, throwing a whole block of red-hot iron at him. Pallas Athena piled the whole island of Sicily on the giant Enceladus, who had fled. The giant Polybod, fleeing by sea from the pursuit of the formidable earth-shaker Poseidon, fled to the island of Kos. With his trident, Poseidon broke off a part of the scythe and piled it on Polybod. So the island of Niceros was formed. Hermes defeated the giant Hippolytus. Artemis did the same to Gratian. The great Moira did to giants Agri and the Fun, who fought with brass clubs. All the other giants were struck down by the thunderer Zeus with his sparkling lightning, but the great Hercules sent them all death with his arrows that do not miss. That's bloody missiles. They're talking about technology that's already being used in the 20th and the 21st century. It turns out, firstly, the gods knew the secret of anti-gravity, easily threw rocks, and secondly, the giants are buried under whole islands. It's almost impossible to find them. You gotta read ancient Indian mythology, if you want to refer it like that, Mahabharata and so forth. You can find it some of it in my video about the gigantic underwater creatures of the Lake Baikal. The research I've done for many decades. So if you believe the myths, giants did exist on our planet. There are traces of their stay on our Earth, giant structures. It is possible that we can find their remains using the same myths. Of course, it is necessary to look for traces of giants in the places indicated by legends, including China. And of course, down at the bottom of the ocean. Someday we will. Someday, hopefully, we'll use the energies of our planet not to fight each other, but to find traces of our past, maybe technologies that are still buried and waiting for the new inhabitants of this planet to find them. So I leave you on this optimistic note. If you like my research, please support it. In the links you will find the description to this video. Please like my channel, my videos. Please tell others. Thank you.